The anime kicks off with a young boy named Lloyd getting magic lessons in the 4 basic elements from his tough-as-nails teacher. She starts with fire and gives him a clear ultimatum: master it or skip dinner. That's one way to light a fire under someone. Motivated by hunger and fear, Lloyd trains hard. After many attempts, he proudly shows off a little flame to his teacher. She's mildly impressed until she snuffs it out and conjures up a huge blaze of her own. "Nice try," she says, "but this is just the beginning." Next day, water training. Lloyd tries to copy her water drawing technique, but fails miserably. With a better explanation and a live demo, he tries again, and this time nails it. He's feeling pretty good until she dumps a torrent of water on him. "Now that's real water," she says, grinning. Then comes wind. Lloyd shows he can use it, kind of. His teacher casually blasts him off his feet with a gust strong enough to launch a kite. Still room to grow, clearly. Later, in the forest, Lloyd makes an ice sculpture of his teacher, because why not? She finds it and smashes it after enlarging it and using Lloyd as part of the performance. He ends up buried in ice, muttering about how he still lacks real strength. Back home, his teacher falls seriously ill. Lloyd, ever caring, heals her with magic. She hugs him with gratitude, then promptly says, "Cool, back to training." One evening, she's reading a spellbook and looking unusually somber. When Lloyd enters to say dinner's ready, the book drops. The moment he picks it up, something weird happens. He faints instantly. The teacher is shocked and realizes he may be chosen. Later, while he's asleep and feverish, she leaves a healing mark on his forehead and vows not to let him repeat her mistakes. The mark disappears shortly after. Next, they return to the forest where Lloyd tries healing magic on a fruit, and it grows rapidly. Pretty cool. But his teacher shows off by healing the entire tree and casually eating a fruit before strolling off like a magic-powered boss. Lloyd is in awe. At home, she warns Lloyd that some monster people use forbidden magic to control beasts. He's curious, but she flat out refuses to teach him. It's ancient, dangerous, and should stay forgotten. Training resonates. Lloyd tries to sneakily use a hidden magic wand, but his teacher finds it and bonks him with it. Focus. She yells, unimpressed by his shortcut attempt. Later, she teaches him about magic stones, crystallized mana that can turn nearby objects into more stones. Lloyd wonders if they can be restored, but that answer's on hold for now. Finally, she blindfolds Lloyd, drags him into a forest, and says, "Here's a knife. Get home in a week." Wait, what? A monster appears immediately, and Lloyd, in full panic mode, flees and climbs a tree. He realizes white magic alone won't save him this time, and that he really needs to escape fast. Lloyd uses vision magic and realizes that the safe zone is really far away. He climbs down from the tree, hides his knife, and begins his journey. After night falls, he finds a fruit-bearing tree, magically matures a fruit, and munches on it. Then, like a budget wilderness expert, he camps in a cave and uses a basic magic circle to enhance himself slightly. The next morning, he begins climbing a mountain, only to nearly fall off it. That night, he curls up inside a tree again and casts a mana-reducing spell to conserve energy. Days pass as he roams the forest, strengthening himself and using spells. While walking, he steps on a twig, which causes a massive monster to come tumbling down. Lloyd narrowly avoids being flattened. The monster sees him and gives chase. Panicking, Lloyd activates a speed spell and runs for his life. He finally makes it home, collapses and loses consciousness. His teacher finds him and proudly welcomes him back, impressed that he completed the survival challenge. Years pass and Lloyd grows into a young man, still doing house chores. While cleaning, he finds a book about a nearby city. His teacher catches him slacking, but lets him borrow the book. Later, she drags him literally into helping her test an anti-aging spell, then tosses him back like a magic rag doll. They have lunch, but she's already brainstorming new enhancement spells. That night, she gives him a special vitality potion, which just knocks him out from exhaustion. The next morning, Lloyd is gone. His teacher finds the city book on his desk and realizes what he's done. Meanwhile, Lloyd arrives in the city, awestruck by the bustling crowds and nearly flattened by a speeding cart. The driver shouts at him, but Lloyd just marvels at city life. He buys some pastries and ends up broke. Then a flyer smacks into him, offering adventurer jobs. Perfect timing. Lloyd joins a party led by Alan. During a mission, a monster smashes through walls, shocking everyone. Alan calls for Sheena to heal the team, but Lloyd quietly casts a healing spell himself, buffing the whole squad. The team fights back, One hits the monster's eye, it retaliates, another blocks the blow. Someone restrains it, and Alan finishes it off with a mighty attack. Back in the city, the team is welcomed like heroes. At their base, Alan gives Lloyd a small payment, calling it the rank D share, and warns him not to get cocky. But Lloyd is totally chill about it. They celebrate, but Lloyd bows out because he doesn't drink. This annoys a teammate, but Alan shrugs it off, claiming white mages aren't that useful in battle anyway. Back at the teacher's house, Lloyd's observer reports to her that he's joined the adventure team hero to slay monsters. The teacher sees this as a real test for Lloyd. As long as he doesn't get arrogant, he'll be fine. The observer asks if she has any regrets, but she replies, "I won't repeat the same mistake twice." They recall the past, when the demon lord sacrificed himself to steal a magical book and nearly dragged them all into ruin. Ancient magic reversed the fate of those the demon lord had killed, but at the cost of Lloyd's life. Back in the city, a vendor is selling books about the hero team, especially Alan's monster-slaying glory. In these tales, Lloyd is only mentioned as the support guy, helping others defend until Alan could finish the fight. At Alan's house, he visits a teammate who's been studying defense magic. She admits she's noticed something odd during battles. Her blocks have felt different lately. Alan, ever cocky, says it's just his overflowing power, even though he hasn't trained in ages. Meanwhile, by the river, two city guards face a terrifying moment. A giant monster appears and kills them both, drawing ever closer to the city. Back at Alan's house, he receives word about the soldiers who were killed and is assigned the job of eliminating the monster. Confident as ever, Alan thinks it'll be a walk in the park. At the river, he casually asks if the monster is nearby. Lloyd, already prepared, reveals its location using his magic. The party enters the lair, and Alan charges in and slays the creature like it's no big deal. But before they can high-five, another monster shows up, shocking Lloyd and annoying Alan. Lloyd quickly figures out that a demon is behind this. The black jewel embedded in the demon's magic staff is crystallized mana, super rare and very dangerous. One teammate asks if the jewel is overloaded with mana, while another realizes it's being used to control monsters. Lloyd springs into action. He casts a special enhancement spell and tells Lulu to fire an arrow at the demon. She's surprised but trusts him, fires the shot, and nails it. He then asks Miaya to teleport the demon's staff to him. Miaya, slightly baffled, makes it happen. Lloyd catches the staff like a pro, impressing her and infuriating Alan, who clearly doesn't like being upstaged. Alan insists on skewering the monster, but Lloyd warns him without the magic stone's control, the monster might go berserk. Alan, being Alan, ignores the warning and charges in anyway, and almost gets squashed. Lloyd saves him by pushing him out of harm's way. Naturally, Alan gets mad again and tells him to stop interfering. Then, determined to finish it himself, Alan attacks and lands the final blow. Later at Alan's house, he vents his frustration. He tells Lloyd he's just a backliner, a white mage who isn't even healing. That's Sheena's job. He accuses him of being useless and announces that he's being kicked off the team. Lloyd, quietly hurt, asks, "Do you think I lack power?" Alan says nothing at first, but eventually tells him to just leave. So, Lloyd does. At the guild, Lloyd tries to join a new party, but their leader turns him down. They already have a white mage. Rejected again, he starts wandering around when he overhears a desperate girl begging the receptionist for help. She needs a white mage urgently by tomorrow for a diamond-class freelance mission. The receptionist tries her best, but says it's difficult. Still begging, the adventurer asks if any white mage is available. The receptionist, like a matchmaking fairy, points her to Lloyd. The girl rushes over and asks if he's a white mage. He says yes. Then she asks if he's with a party. Lloyd gives the most relatable answer ever: "I'm unemployed." Without hesitation, she grabs his hand and drags him off. This was Lloyd's soon-to-be new team, heading out on a mission to capture a group of thieves called the Mudblocks. Cross, the archer, believed they'd succeed if they followed the plan. Silica, the sorceress, reminded everyone to stay cautious. This was a grade 1 mission, after all. Yui, the leader, was confident they'd manage. Meanwhile, Clum, their current white mage, was distracted, not paying much attention at all. When the fight started, Silica launched fireballs, forcing the thieves to hide behind wooden boxes. Thinking she'd used up all her mana, the thieves tried to charge her, only to be met with Cross's arrows, wiping them out cleanly. Yui took down thief after thief, almost getting hit, but Dagus jumped in and blocked the attack. Clum finally snapped out of it and strengthened Dagus with magic, allowing him to toss the thief aside like garbage. With the thieves defeated, their leader, hiding nearby, started sweating. He thought of escaping, but the adventurers cornered him. Yui told him to surrender quietly. The leader asked who they were but froze when he saw the badge on Yui's necklace. She proudly declared them S-rank adventurers. Panicking, the thief leader grabbed his staff embedded with a magic stone and summoned a massive stone golem. The team was stunned. Silica predicted their magic wouldn't be very effective against its rocky body. Cross-doughted arrows would help either. The thief leader laughed and ordered the golem to attack. But Yui stepped up, declaring she'd handle it. She struck the golem, but it did nothing. The golem swung back, and she barely dodged. She asked Clum to cast a body-strengthening spell on her. At first, Clum was still zoned out, but after a repeat request, she obliged. Empowered, Yui struck again, this time smashing the golem to pieces. After tying up the thieves, Clum apologized to Yui for her distractions. But Yui wasn't angry. She knew Clum was worried about her younger sister, which explained her recent absences. Later at the guild, Yui quickly found a replacement white mage, Lloyd, and brought him to the team HQ. Silica was surprised she returned so fast. Cross joked she probably didn't find anyone, but Yui proudly introduced Lloyd. Dagus was skeptical and asked where the new mage was. Yui pointed to Lloyd and introduced him, but he hadn't agreed to join yet. Silica saw that coming, and Dagus grumbled that she probably didn't explain everything to him. Cross worried they'd have to cancel the next mission, since they couldn't do it without Clum. Dagus doubted Lloyd could fill Clum's shoes. Silica sympathized, but Yui was visibly upset, asking what would happen to their client if they backed out. Lloyd suggested passing the mission to another team, but Silica explained that this wasn't a rank mission, only teams of rank A or higher could accept it. Dagus reminded them that all other high-rank teams were busy, and since they were S-rank, it was up to them. Lloyd was stunned. He didn't realize they were S-rank, the highest adventurer rank. Cross added that adventurers can only work with registered teammates, so borrowing someone else wasn't an option. Lloyd wanted to help but remembered Alan's harsh words calling him useless, making him hesitate. However, Yui believed in him. They all went to the forest where Yui asked Lloyd to demonstrate his magic so they could judge his abilities. Nervous, Lloyd feared he'd disappoint them like he did with his last team. Dagus sensed his hesitation and suggested Yui ask him for a specific spell instead of putting him on the spot. Agreeing, Yui asked him to cast a strengthening spell on all of them at once, which shocked Lloyd. Cross commented that even most white mages can't do that. Lloyd asked, "If I do this, does that make me officially S-rank?" Yui confirmed, but added he had to cast it on everyone simultaneously, no taking turns. Unsure, Lloyd asked for a moment. Then he pulled out his staff, which surprised Yui, and began preparing his magic circles to cast the spell on all of them. Yui asked Lloyd where he got his staff from, but instead, he pulled out a storage magic trick and asked for their opinion on the strengthening magic he just cast. The team was stunned. Dagus couldn't believe he didn't notice any signs, and Cross felt his body lighter. Then Yui tested it by striking a tree and cleanly sliced it down. Everyone stood there, jaws dropped. Lloyd casually explained that he had cast 5 spells: body strengthening, defense enhancement, magic power boost, mana consumption reduction, and resistance to negative effects. Yui was flabbergasted. You did 5 spells on everyone. But Lloyd, thinking a simple strengthening spell was too basic, assumed they wanted something extra. Realizing he might have overdone it, he apologized, thinking he wasn't worthy of being their white mage, and offered to leave. But Yui stopped him. She was shocked to hear that Lloyd was part of the heroes party, though they kicked him out for lacking power. Cross couldn't believe it. How was this guy considered weak? Silica admitted she'd never seen anyone use magic on such a scale before. But Lloyd insisted there were plenty of white mages stronger than him. He suggested they just bring back their previous mage, Clum, instead of relying on him. But Yui explained that Clum had a very sick younger sister, which had drained her both physically and mentally. They'd all noticed how tired she looked on the last mission. Silica added that Clum herself chose to leave the team, not wanting to burden them. Lloyd finally understood why they needed a replacement. Dagus joked they could go without a white mage, but that would be quite risky. Everyone grew worried about Clum and her sister. Lloyd asked asked about her sister's illness. Yui explained vaguely, but mentioned that the disease turns the body into a magic stone. That rang a bell for Lloyd, recalling his teacher's lessons. He asked Yui to guide him to Clum's house. When they visited, Clum was surprised. Lloyd asked directly about her sister's condition, so Clum showed him. When she opened the room, a foul mana stench filled the air. Lying there was Sylvie, her sister, visibly turning into a magic stone. Clum said the mana was spiraling out of control, and it was only a matter of time before the transformation completed. But Lloyd had a theory. He asked if the injury happened in a cave with high mana density. Clum confirmed it was during a mission to retrieve a magic stone. Lloyd inspected Sylvie's wound and concluded that mana had seeped in from that exact spot. Clum, skeptical, asked how he knew this, and he humbly credited his ideal teacher. Then Clum asked if she could trust Lloyd. He got to work using a magic circle and a reverse mana transfer spell to absorb the wild mana from Sylvie, though it made him visibly tired. Clum was shocked to see him reshaping a spell on the fly. He explained that he needed to suppress the mana to near zero, or any treatment would be pointless. He combined spells cleverly, albeit with poor mana efficiency, allowing him to burn off the excess mana while healing. Both Yui and Clum were amazed. Yui was especially stunned to see Sylvie's limbs recovering. Eventually, Lloyd succeeded in fully healing her, and Sylvie woke up, calling for her sister. Clum burst into tears of relief and gratitude. She thanked Lloyd, saying once Sylvie fully recovered, she might adventure again. Yui thought that was for the best. Clum promised to treat them to their next meal, and Yui and Lloyd said their goodbyes. But before Lloyd left, Clum told him she was sure the team would be safe with him, and asked him to take care of them, even though he wasn't officially on the team yet. Later at the tavern, the team celebrated. Dagus praised Lloyd for healing Sylvie. Yui teased Lloyd for being so humble despite his achievement, giving him a playful smack. Lloyd was just happy that Sylvie was safe, though Clum wouldn't be returning to the team. Silica noted they needed to plan for their future, but Cross was just happy to celebrate. Dagus then asked what they'd want if given a second life. Silica shyly said she'd like to be a wife. In the middle of the fun, Lloyd surprised everyone by asking to officially join their team, on the condition that they didn't mind having someone like him. Dagus thought he was against the idea, but Cross was thrilled. Silica said Lloyd's presence was reassuring. Yui warmly welcomed him to the team, shaking his hand. She declared it was time for a welcome party. Lloyd insisted it wasn't necessary, but Yui wasn't having it. That's just how things are done. She cheekily asked if he'd follow her, and while the rest thought she just wanted an excuse to party, Yui insisted she was being serious. After that, they threw a welcome party for Lloyd and told him to eat as much as he wanted. They were covering the bill tonight. Lloyd didn't need to hear that twice and started eating like he'd never seen food before. His new party watched in amusement. They asked if he was starving, and Lloyd cheerfully replied that the food in this town was amazing. That surprised everyone, because honestly, the food was just average. Lloyd explained that compared to what he grew up eating, the food here was bursting with flavor. Yui was instantly curious about his childhood. Lloyd shared that he lived with his teacher, who cooked whatever grew in her garden, sometimes wild mushrooms, other times random beast meat, always served without any seasoning. He learned to cook, but even his best efforts couldn't match the city's plain food. At this point, Yui didn't care about the food anymore. She was far more curious about Lloyd's mysterious teacher. The others chimed in too. Silica asked if his teacher was also a white mage. Lloyd shook his head. She was more of a combat mage. He often saw explosions whenever she worked alone. Silica was amazed that a non-white mage trained Lloyd so well, but Lloyd assured them that Merlin was beyond amazing. When Silica mentioned she'd love to learn from her, Lloyd stopped her immediately, warning that she'd regret saying that for the rest of her life if she ever knew the truth. Clearly, there's a story there. After some more chatting about Merlin, they got serious and held a strategy meeting for their mission. Yui, who admitted she was terrible at presentations, asked Dagus to explain the details to Lloyd. Dagus explained that their mission was to eliminate monsters destroying local farms. Silica added that multiple monster species had formed a pack, which was a first for Lloyd and even new for them. Then Cross pointed out that since they'd be facing a large number of enemies, both he and Yui would struggle. Physical attackers aren't great against mobs. Yui agreed and said Silica would have to carry them with her Wideria spells. But Silica looked uneasy. Those spells drained a lot of mana. Yui then asked Lloyd if he could use offensive magic. He admitted he could, but only basic level spells, and they weren't exactly impressive. Moving to the formation strategy, Dagus said that he and Yui would gather the monsters together for Silica to blast them all at once. Cross would guard Silica and Lloyd, while Lloyd would focus on healing and support. With the plan set, everyone headed to the inn to rest except Lloyd, who wandered off in another direction. Dagus stopped Lloyd, asking where he was going, and Lloyd nervously admitted he was too broke to afford a room at the inn. Without hesitation, Dagus tossed him a pouch filled with more gold than Lloyd had ever seen in his life. Lloyd panicked and said he couldn't accept it, but Dagus coolly replied that it wasn't charity. He just deducted from Lloyd's future salary. No escape from that deal, so Lloyd accepted and promised to work hard to repay it. The next morning, the team gathered in front of the inn. Yui arrived last and noticed no one was carrying luggage. The others proudly told her that Lloyd stored everything with his magic storage. Not wanting to miss out, Yui handed over her gear too, and Lloyd stashed it away instantly. Yui and Silica were thoroughly impressed, but Lloyd humbly offered to teach them the spell. This shocked them. No one had ever seen storage magic like this outside of Lloyd. Still, he insisted it was easy, though expanding capacity required training. They set off on their mission. On the way, Lloyd learned that long quests are more fun with friends. They reached the campsite way ahead of schedule, thanks to having no baggage. As they unpacked, Yui tried to sneak off for a splash in the river, but Dagus scolded her. There was still firewood and food to gather. Lloyd volunteered for the firewood, and Yui thanked him before dragging Silica away for a bath. While gathering sticks, Lloyd spotted a fruit from his childhood and picked some for the team. Suddenly, he heard Yui scream. He rushed back to find a giant serpent monster attacking the bathing Yui and Silica, who were totally defenseless. Lloyd dashed in, drawing the monster's attention, giving the girls time to cover up. He even tossed them their weapons like a gentleman after making sure they were decent. He cast 2 enchantments on them, and Yui sliced the monster in 2 with a single strike. But the severed head kept fighting, so Silica blasted it with a fireball way stronger than usual. She was confused by her own power, not realizing Lloyd had buffed her. Afterward, Yui thanked Lloyd and asked him to store her sword, but then her towel slipped, giving Lloyd an unintended glimpse of the plot. Naturally, she slapped him into next week. Back at camp, Lloyd started teaching storage magic. He told them to open a space with your palm, but they all looked like they were squishing invisible balloons. Lloyd felt like a terrible teacher until Silica, after some trial, succeeded by chanting the spell. Everyone realized they needed incantations, unlike Lloyd, who was just casually overpowered. Later that night, during watch, Yui thanked Lloyd for joining them. He joked that he was unemployed, so he should be the one thanking her. Curious, he asked why she was so determined to finish this quest. Yui shared that monsters had destroyed her village when she was a child. She was the only survivor. That's why she couldn't ignore this mission. But suddenly, Lloyd shushed her. Monsters were nearby. Yui drew her sword while Lloyd told her to wake the others. Soon the team faced a swarm of spider monsters. They tried to retreat, but Yui stepped on a twig, classic horror movie move, and the spiders surrounded them, spitting webs. One even snatched Silica's staff. Lloyd quickly enchanted the team. Yui slashed through the webs, Cross recovered Silica's staff, and Yui chopped off spider legs like she was dicing onions. Then, she literally surfed on a spider's silk spray to the next one, slicing its legs too. Next, Lloyd told Silica and Cross to go on the offense. Silica launched fireballs, and Cross shot arrows through them, lighting the spiders up like a barbecue. When it was all over, Lloyd realized he'd been shouting commands like a leader and apologized for overstepping. But Dagus praised him, saying he had natural leader vibes. The others agreed and encouraged him to keep leading in battle. By morning, everyone had learned storage magic well enough to carry their own gear. As they continued their journey, Lloyd kept pondering, why were those spiders even there in the first place? Over the next few days, Lloyd takes it upon himself to keep watch in case anything similar happens. But the others are starting to get worried since it's not healthy for him to stay up so late. They offer to go back to rotating shifts, but Lloyd tells them he's perfectly fine. He's used to staying up late. After all, with how mediocre he thinks his skills are, this is the only way he feels he can contribute to the team. That's absolutely not true, and everyone knows it. But even after all the time they've spent trying to convince Lloyd that his skills are extraordinary, he remains completely oblivious. So, Silica tells them to just drop the subject for now. now so they can get some sleep. But before they go, she begs Lloyd not to push himself too hard. The next morning, the party continues their journey, and Yui is getting concerned about how low Lloyd's confidence is. So, when she sees him silently casting a spell, she walks over to ask what he's doing. Lloyd explains that he's just casting a simple detection spell to see if any monsters are nearby. But there's nothing simple about that. Detection magic is so rare that Yui has never actually met anyone capable of using it. But to Lloyd, it's not even worth mentioning. He says his detection range isn't that large, just a few kilometers, but thinks it would be safer to use the spell periodically for the rest of the trip. Yui agrees that using detection magic would make the journey safer, but she worries that making Lloyd use such a powerful spell so often might be too much of a burden. She offers to help, but Lloyd tells her he can handle it. Later that night, Lloyd is staying up again for watch duty. Meanwhile, in their tent, Yui and Silica start wondering if Lloyd doesn't trust them or something. They know he's capable, but he's refused to rely on anyone in the team, despite them being companions. Silica thinks it's nothing to worry about. It takes time for people to warm up to teammates. She and Yui barely spoke at first, but now they're great friends. Lloyd is a little different. He thinks he's weak and tries too hard to prove himself. There's probably a reason for it, and she's sure he'll open up eventually. Outside, Lloyd is still on watch when Dagus walks up and says he needs a favor. He asks Lloyd to help him with something. Lloyd is hesitant to leave his post, but Cross shows up and offers to take over the watch. So, Lloyd agrees. They head deeper into the woods, and Dagus sets up a chime system between the trees. Lloyd asks what it's for, and Dagus explains the chimes will alert them to monsters, so Lloyd doesn't need to stay up all night anymore. Lloyd starts to protest, saying he can't use detection magic while sleeping. Dagus asks if Lloyd really trusts them that little. Lloyd immediately denies it, but his actions say otherwise. He scouts alone, refuses help, and never lets others take watch. He explains that for years, Merlin told him he needed to be independent, and the first party he joined after coming to the capital called him useless. So, he pushed himself to be useful. Dagus tells him he doesn't see Lloyd as a burden, and even if he were, the whole point of having a team is to rely on each other. Lloyd had literally never thought about it like that. This is a big realization for him. Dagus wonders what kind of hardship Lloyd must have gone through to end up this way. But for now, he says they should just get some sleep. They head back to camp, and Cross takes over the watch while Lloyd and Dagus get some shut-eye in the tent. Lloyd isn't used to the idea, but having true companions sounds nice, so he wants to give it a try. The next morning, Lloyd finds Yui and asks if she can help fetch some water. Yui freezes in disbelief. It's the first time Lloyd has asked her for help, but she's happy he's finally starting to rely on her and gladly agrees. Meanwhile, in a nearby castle, an evil count named Michaels receives a report saying all the magic stones have been placed as planned. Michaels is pleased, everything is going smoothly. Thanks to the monster attacks he arranged, almost all the adventurers in the capital have been sent on missions. The only ones left are low-ranking adventurers and the hero party. Honestly, he wishes the hero party was gone too, but he's confident he can overwhelm them easily. Back in the forest, Lloyd and the team keep moving. But Yui starts getting a bad feeling. It's unnaturally quiet. The group finds it strange that they haven't encountered any monsters in this part of the forest. Yui asks Lloyd if he had something to do with the absence of monsters, but he tells her he's only been using detection magic, and it doesn't repel monsters at all. That means something else must be scaring the monsters away. So Lloyd increases the range of his detection magic to figure out what it is. After scanning for a few seconds, he finally spots something. He tells everyone there's a horde of monsters about 2.5 kilometers ahead, and according to the map, that's the direction of the farm they were heading to. Before they discuss that further, Yui asks Lloyd to seriously scan everything in a 2-kilometer radius. Lloyd confirms it, though he still doesn't think it's anything special. But the others quickly point out that's over 10 times the distance even the most talented mages can manage. Lloyd had no idea that 2 kilometers was considered impressive. He instinctively downplays it, saying that 2 kilometers is pretty much his limit and it uses up a lot of mana, so he can't do it often. Still, it's nothing short of incredible. Yui is getting frustrated with how dense Lloyd is when it comes to recognizing his own power. But there's no time to argue. They've got a mission to deal with. They arrive at the farm, and even though they were warned about the number of monsters, actually seeing it in person is terrifying. There are tons of high wolves, but Lloyd remembers the reports saying the horde included many different monster types. So where did the others go? The team agrees something is off. There should be stronger monsters in the area, ones that would easily overpower the wolves. So why are only the wolves present? Lloyd asks Yui if she knows where the farm owner is, but she says she's not sure. The request mentioned the owner was injured and staying with his son in the city. Just then, Cross notices something strange down on the farm. He tells the others to take a look, but none of them can see what he's talking about. Their vision isn't as sharp. Even Lloyd can't see it, so he casts enhancement magic on his eyes, and now he spots it, an ominous magic stone in the middle of the field. He casts the same vision buff on the others. They all agree, it looks dangerous. Based on its aura, Lloyd suspects it might be orc magic. Merlin once told him that orc magic can control monsters, so someone might be using that stone to lure monsters to the farm. To confirm, Lloyd casts his detection magic again. Just as he feared, another massive horde of monsters is heading straight for them. But he wonders, why would someone go to all this trouble? If the goal was to eliminate the party, there were easier ways. Cross interrupts his thinking and reminds him they've got another horde on the way, so they should retreat. But Yui argues they can't. If they do, the farm will be destroyed. Cross points out that they can't handle over 1,000 monsters alone. But Daggis says retreating might not be an option. They could lead the horde straight to a village. They're stuck. No one is sure what to do. Then Lloyd says they should stay and fight. He has a plan. Step 1. Destroy the magic stone. Lloyd asks Cross if he can shoot the stone from this distance. Cross, a skilled marksman, says he can aim at it, but he's not sure he can destroy it in one shot. Lloyd tells him that's fine. He can enhance the shot. Lloyd casts 3 layers of enhancement magic on Cross, on his body, bow, and arrow, which boosts the power enough to shatter the stone in one shot. Cross is amazed. Lloyd casually explains what he did, still not realizing that casting 3 simultaneous enhancements is highly advanced magic. With the crystal destroyed, the monsters begin to attack each other, no longer under mind control. Even if they don't completely wipe themselves out, it should reduce their numbers drastically. As for the second horde, Lloyd had hoped they would turn back after the crystal was broken, but no such luck. The team braces for battle. As the horde closes in, Lloyd tells them to wait for the right moment. Just as the monsters reach Silica, Lloyd gives the signal. Silica casts Firestorm, and the spell is shockingly powerful, literally vaporizing monsters. The others are stunned. There's no way her spell should be that strong. Lloyd explains he cast mana enhancement and mana efficiency on her, making the spell far more effective. Next phase, aerial threats. Lloyd runs to Cross and forms a mental link, something else he can apparently do, and uses spatial magic to send Cross the exact locations of all flying monsters through the smoke. With Lloyd's help, Cross snipes them all. Final phase, storm suppression. Lloyd rushes back to Silica and asks if she's finished with the land monsters. She has, but she's low on mana. Lloyd tells her not to worry and asks her to hold his hand. She does, and Lloyd transfers mana directly into her. With the extra mana, Silica casts a massive weather spell to summon storm clouds, extinguishing the forest fires. As soon as it's done, she collapses, completely drained. Lloyd is exhausted too. Despite saving the entire operation, Lloyd only thinks about how inadequate he must be for getting tired. But something still doesn't feel right. Lloyd realizes this might have been a trap all along. The monster attack seems like a setup meant to lure high-ranking adventurers away from the capital. If that's true, then the real target might be the city itself. He shares his theory with the others. Someone may have wanted to weaken the city's defenses before launching an attack. Yui reminds him that the hero's party and the knights are still in Ishtar, so the city isn't defenseless. Still, coming from Lloyd, a warning like this can't be ignored. To be safe, Yui suggests they all head back immediately. Lloyd agrees. Without a word, he casts speed boost on the entire party and takes off running back toward the city. The others watch him zoom away, confused until they suddenly realize realize they're moving just as fast. They realize Lloyd must have done something, so they ask him for an explanation. He casually tells them he boosted everyone's speed so they could reach the city faster. The group appreciates it, but maybe next time he could mention when he's casting spells, so his contributions don't fly under the radar. While Lloyd and the party are racing back to the city, the Count sits at his desk with a glass of, hopefully red wine when General Gree walks in. Gree asks how the plan is going, and the Count says it's nearly ready, all thanks to the girl Briss kidnapped. She's been incredibly useful. In fact, he has a whole list of experiments he wants to try on her once the city of Ishtar falls. Briss senses the Count is up to something dark, but he keeps quiet. After all, this is the former right-hand man of the Demon Lord, questioning his methods. Not advisable. Meanwhile, the girl is imprisoned in the Count's dungeon. He visits now and then with magic potions, only to harvest her magic and create those monster-attracting crystals. It's happened so many times, she's lost the will to fight. Back with Lloyd's group, they're crossing a vast field nearly back to the city. But Silica starts worrying about Lloyd's health. It must be tough keeping up speed magic for so long. Lloyd, however, has no clue what she's worried about. Once you get used to it, enhancement magic barely uses any mana. The others ask what he means by getting used to it, so Lloyd explains. When he was younger, Merlin left him in the middle of a forest and told him to find his own way back. As a white mage, he couldn't fight monsters, so he just cast support spells on himself and ran for his life. After a lot of trial and error, he finally made it home. Everyone is shocked, but Lloyd insists it must be standard training. Yui and Silica pause and break the news. Most legal guardians don't toss their kids into the wilderness for training. Lloyd, of course, takes this to mean normal kids go through even worse and concludes his skills must be subpar. Classic Lloyd logic. After their break, Lloyd casts the spell again and they continue running until he suddenly stops, making everyone tumble. He explains that he sensed something ahead with a scan, but isn't sure what. Silica asks if it's a monster. Lloyd doesn't think so. It feels more like a hunter stalking prey. He tells the group to go ahead while he checks it out. Yui immediately objects. He doesn't know what he's walking into, and if it's dangerous, he'd be in trouble. The rest agree they're a team, so they're investigating together. Lloyd appreciates their concern and leads them to the source. Now closer, he confirms there are demons in the house. When Yui hears this, she asks if he's sure. Demons are usually found in the Mega, and right now they're banned from the continent's 3 major nations. Everyone looks confused. It's basic knowledge, but Lloyd looks like he's hearing it for the first time. Embarrassed, Lloyd admits he has no memories from childhood. His earliest memory is the day Merlin took him in after the war was already over. If there really are demons here, Daga suggests reporting it to the city knights immediately. Lloyd agrees, but he wants to gather a bit more intel first. The others warn it's too risky, but Lloyd explains that the mana inside feels just like the one from the magic crystal that attracted monsters. If these demons are tied to whoever's behind the city attack, then it's worth the risk. Yui agrees it's their duty as adventurers to protect people, and this might be their chance to prevent the attack on Ishtar entirely. Yui convinces the others that it's their duty as adventurers to protect the people, and the demons clearly pose a threat. Besides, if they're lucky, they might be able to stop the attack on Ishtar altogether. So, they decide to give it a shot. When they peek through the house window, they're shocked to find it completely empty. Lloyd does another scan and realizes the demons are underground and definitely up to something sketchy. He asks Silica if she can use earth magic to get them down there. She confirms she can. Lloyd casts enhancement magic on everyone, and Silica uses her sand pit spell to open a hole in the ground, dropping the whole party straight into the middle of the demons' ritual. The demons are stunned and demand to know who the intruders are, but Yui holds her sword to one of their faces and threatens him for answers. Before he can respond, another demon uses earth magic to launch rocks at Yui, forcing her to dodge and giving the first demon time to escape. He bolts, running past the demon who helped him, and locks the door behind him to keep Yui from following. The remaining demons try to sneak up on her, but Cross shoots both in the legs, allowing Yui to finish them off easily. With those demons handled, the party regroups and prepares to chase down the last one. Meanwhile, the escaping demon tries to wrap the imprisoned girl in a magical cocoon to transport her. But Yui and the others burst through the door, forcing him to flee again. They chase him up the stairs and out into the open. Realizing the demon might escape, Lloyd tells Yui to run ahead and cut him off, while Silica and Dagus flank from the sides. The demon finds himself surrounded. Lloyd tells him to surrender, he's got questions. But instead, the demon tries one final attack, casting a lightning spell. Lloyd reacts quickly, casting shields over everyone and blocking the attack. The final strike pierces the demon's chest, taking him down. Lloyd then unwraps the cocoon and is surprised to find a beast girl inside. They take her back to the cabin and lay her in bed to rest. With all the demons gone, they've got no one left to question, except this girl. Dagus asks if Lloyd can heal her. He agrees and raises his staff to begin. Silica is amazed at how effective his healing magic is. Lloyd casually explains he's made a few improvements to it in his spare time. Yui quickly points out that most adventurers can't improve spells at all. What Lloyd did is almost unheard of. Lloyd admits he didn't realize that, since Merlin used to make him help refine her spells all the time. At least now, he understands enough not to brush off his own skill. Soon after, the girl wakes up. As soon as her eyes open, Yui bombards her with questions. The girl can barely keep up, but manages to tell Yui her name is Claire. Progress. Lloyd gently takes over and asks Claire if she knows why the demons imprisoned her. She doesn't answer, so he changes topics. He explains that they're adventurers who came to save a farm being attacked by monsters. The monsters were drawn by a magic crystal, and he could sense beast magic coming from it. Lloyd remembers that some beast folk have the power to control beasts, so he asks if the magic came from her. Claire hesitates, but finally admits her magic was powering the stones. Meanwhile, back in the city, a group of guards discovers one of the magic stones left behind by the demons, but it's too late. Monsters have already started appearing, and it won't be long before the entire city is overrun. Meanwhile, back in the city, Alan is getting frustrated because he can't find a replacement for Lloyd. All the white mages who applied could barely cast 2 spells at a time, while Lloyd could easily use 5. Rena tries to tell him Lloyd might have been a special case, but Alan refuses to believe it. His pride won't allow him to admit he was wrong. Instead, he decides all the white mages in the city must be even more useless than Lloyd, so they just need to keep recruiting. Just then, a member of the Imperial Guard arrives with bad news. Monsters have been spotted outside the city, over 10,000 of them, and the king wants the heroes' party to help defend the city. Confident as ever, Alan accepts without hesitation. The guard breathes a sigh of relief, assuming Alan knows what he's doing. Spoiler, he absolutely doesn't. After the guard leaves, Sheena warns Alan that 10,000 monsters is too much for them to handle alone, but he's more interested in the glory of fulfilling a royal request. The others can already tell this won't end well. Meanwhile, in the forest, Lloyd and Claire locate the second wave of monsters. If they join the horde headed for Ishtar, the city won't survive. Lloyd says they must act, but Claire asks if there's a way to stop them without killing them. She feels responsible since her power was used to summon them. Seeing her concern, Lloyd promises to save the town while minimizing monster casualties, but he'll need her help. He asks if she can send the monsters back to their natural habitats. Claire says it's possible, but doubts she can manage such a large group. Lloyd offers to boost her abilities with his support magic. She agrees to try, but before she can cast the spell, something interferes, forcing them to investigate. Back at the guild, Alan calls a meeting with all remaining adventurers, only to insult them for being weak. Sheena points out that all A rank and higher parties are away on missions, leaving only B rank and below. Alan keeps treating them like disposable pawns, which angers them, but the guild branch manager intervenes, reminding everyone they're here to fight monsters, not each other. Alan outlines his plan. All mages will cast their strongest attack spells to kill 10 monsters each, then rest while the melee fighters hold the line, repeating until victory. In theory, fine, but the adventurers explain their strongest spells can only kill 1 monster at best. Alan calls them incompetent until Mia admits she couldn't do it either. She explains her magic weakened suddenly, and Sheena, Lulu, and Rena say the same. It started the day after Lloyd left. Alan accuses them of lying, but Rena fires back, saying the same thing should be happening to him, and that he's too distracted by glory to notice he's weaker. She bluntly tells him he doesn't deserve his title, in front of everyone. Humiliated, Alan tries to punch her with full force, but she stops him effortlessly. The whole guild sees it, destroying his reputation. Embarrassed, Alan runs out, and the remaining adventurers are left wondering how someone like him ever became a hero. With him useless, they're forced to figure out how to defend the city before the monsters arrive. They were starting to consider abandoning the city, but Rena told everyone to calm down. She was still willing to stay and fight. The adventurers felt reassured having someone as competent as Rena on their side, though she couldn't deny the situation was bad. Her first order of business was to ask if anyone had seen a man named Lloyd recently. While Rena searched, Lloyd was deep in the forest with Claire, where they discovered a magic crystal identical to the ones he'd seen before. The dark energy radiating from it was likely interfering with Claire's spell. Unless they destroyed it, she wouldn't be able to regain control over the monsters. But with at least a dozen crystals scattered through the forest, finding them all would be difficult. Lloyd asked if Claire could sense the crystals' locations. She could, if she was close enough, but the forest was too vast for her to detect them all. Without hesitation, Lloyd cast sensory sharing and enhancement on her, letting him receive the crystals' locations directly. He followed this with invisibility magic for them both, impressing Claire with how effortlessly he worked. They slipped past the monsters, and Claire began dispelling the dark magic. Back in the city, adventurers gathered outside the walls, uneasy about the coming battle. Rena told them that Lloyd had been the real reason behind the hero party's past successes. When asked why he was expelled, she admitted it was due to the party's arrogance. They'd mistaken victories as their own doing, ignoring Lloyd's support. She wanted to ask him for help, but the guild manager explained he was away with an S-rank party on a monster subjugation mission. Rena guessed that with his magic, he might already be on the way back. With no better option, she declared they would bet everything on his return. Her defense plan had archers striking first, shield bearers blocking the trenches, and mages hitting hard from behind. It wouldn't be easy, but they could hold out until Lloyd arrived. That night, Yui and the others approached Ishtar, still boosted by Lloyd's magic. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Claire found the final magic stone. Once destroyed, the monsters reverted to normal, but the nearby high wolves and blood panthers immediately turned on each other. In the chaos, a monster bumped into Claire, dispelling her invisibility. Surrounded and frozen in fear, she forgot she could control monsters. She was nearly attacked before Lloyd diverted their attention. In the city, the defenders were exhausted, and the monsters were breaking through. Just as hope faded, a massive fireball from Yui's group lit up the battlefield. Elsewhere, Lloyd continued dodging attacks, refusing to harm the monsters because he'd promised Claire to minimize casualties. Realizing this, Claire finally used her power, singing to calm the monsters and lead them back into the forest, something Lloyd wished she'd done sooner, though he was impressed nonetheless. Claire remembers that Lloyd had promised to keep monster casualties to a minimum for her sake, which is likely why he refused to attack them. Not wanting him to suffer because of her, the monsters in the area freed from mind control, Lloyd tells Claire they need to hurry back to Ishtar. Meanwhile, in Ishtar, the battle is still raging. Even with the help of Yui's party, they've barely made a dent in the horde, and their weapons and mana are running dangerously low. It truly looks like the city is on the brink of collapse. Rena urges everyone not to give up, certain they'll find a way to win, but the front lines have already been breached, and people are falling one after another. By morning, all defenses have been destroyed, and the guild manager fears Ishtar's end is near. Just as the city is about to be overrun, a voice rings out from the cliff near the forest, Claire's song amplified by Lloyd's magic. One by one, the monsters stop attacking and return to the forest. When the last of them disappears, Claire stops singing, nearly collapsing from exhaustion, but Lloyd catches her. Both are relieved that they saved the city. However, the crisis is far from over. The demons had planned more than one attack. Now, a massive horde of golems is marching toward Ishtar.